everyone. Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando, and joining me today, once again, is my co-host, Keith. Keith, how are you doing today? It's week 14, and we have a lot of breaking news.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, Fernando. A lot of COVID news, which is never good, especially now we're into the playoffs now in the fantasy football world. So, yeah, just breaking, I suppose, well, not too long ago about the Browns. 8 of their guys in it gone into COVID protocols. I think the biggest names are Austin Hooper and Jarvis Landry. So, probably 2 guys to know for anybody playing fantasy this week. And then I just seen that the Rams are now in some intensive NFL protocols with OBJ. He has tested positive after last night's game, so that's not good news. We already had some, Alexander Madison is in the NFL's, COVID protocols, a lot going on in the league. So yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest news, especially going into, quarterfinal weeks, semifinal weeks, depending on your league setup.
Yeah, this is more relevant now that Christian McCaffrey's on IR, but it's something to keep in mind, too, that he is also tested positive for COVID-19. So there's been a lot of names, and we had last week where Detroit Lions, they had basically their backup team. I mean, they're already bad enough. They had their backup team play because of the COVID-19, because the whole team tested positive, basically.
Yeah, that's a good dig. Nice dig at the Lions early on there. They're bad enough as it is, but they have all these players plus Jared Goff still can play. But yeah, it's not a good situation that a lot of teams are in, and I just hope for most people's sakes none of your top guys enter this COVID protocol, because you'd imagine if they go in anytime soon, they won't get out, for the weekend's games.
Yeah, and they also do have to test negative 2 times within 24 hours for them to be eligible to play. So it's already Tuesday, and I mean, it's going to come down to the wire whether or not they're going to be playing or not. And it could come down to Saturday night, Sunday morning, and you either might have big names that are out or big names that just slide into the match. So it'll be something interesting to watch, especially now that playoffs has officially started.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people have some tough decisions to make now, come closer to the games. So yeah, I suppose just keep an eye out on all the news and keep up with the latest COVID updates for every team.
Yeah, and another good news for Seattle fans, anyways, is Rashad Penny. They might be having him lead the back for the rest of the way. I mean, that's something to keep in mind, since I liked him. I thought he was a good player, but it was just injuries that really killed him.
Yeah, it's the injuries that killed him, but I'm not getting too carried away either. It was against the Texans. They play the Rams this week. It's going to be a totally different game. I still think, like you said there, I think Pete will give him the chance to lead the backfield. I'm not expecting a good fantasy day like he had this week, but I think he deserves the shot at being the number one and until he goes down. Let's be honest. I think everybody's expecting him just to get banged up again.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if he leads the whole back, he might as well get injured again too. I mean, your Seattle team they're rebuilding this season.
I don't know what they're doing. It'd be nice if we could beat the Rams, but after seeing them last night, I don't think we will. But yeah, it'd be just nice to get a few more wins under our belt and see what happens in the offseason.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind is, I mean, I talked about the Raiders, and I thought the Raiders are going to make playoffs. Now they're on the cusp of not even making it.
Yeah, Derek Carr's number 1 fan over here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the Chiefs just obliterated them 48-9, which is actually the first time an NFL game has scored 48-9 in NFL history, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. I didn't know that, but that is cool. The Chiefs just have their number every year, it seems. The Raiders couldn't get anything going on either side of the ball. I think Renfro again was probably, if you had him in fantasy, you were probably the only Raiders player you're happy with, which was good because you're a big Renfro guy. But
I mean, Renfro's been top 10 basically.
Yep. But for the Raiders, their season's just gonna peed out into nothing. After looking like it was going okay, too much stuff going on off the field as well. I think they've got a lot of stuff to sort out in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what can happen there. And then some other news that I just found out is the Raiders Allegiant Stadium is expected to host the 2024 Super Bowl. Some cool news for the Raiders fans. Maybe Raiders will be good by then.
No, doubt it.
Well, I guess we've solved that. We've solved that.
Yeah, we solved that one. Moving
Uh,
on.
moving on. Let's look at the playoff picture. I mean, we have Lamar Jackson. He went down, so Baltimore is really going to be struggling now if he has to miss games. Which Harbaugh said he doesn't expect him to miss any games since it wasn't a true high ankle sprain. It was just a regular ankle sprain, which is definitely not as bad as a high ankle sprain because high ankle sprain could have kept him out for fantasy playoffs even, and maybe into the playoffs. Who knows? But I mean, if you look at the AFC, Patriots, my boy Patriots, 9-4 on top of the division, on top of the conference.
Yep. I mean, you didn't have to play a game and you're still there. So it's always good. Big game this week against the Colts because they've been flying before the bye. So it should be a good game. And then I suppose it's what the Bills after that. It all comes down kind of to that, especially for the Bills because they're hanging on to a playoff spot by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, if we look right now, the Patriots sitting at 9-4, along with the Titans and Chiefs, both also at 9-4, and then we got the Baltimore Ravens at 8-5. Those are the 4 division leaders. Then we have the Chargers, the Colts, and the Bills. Chargers 8-5 and Colts and Bills 7-6. But here's the thing: the Colts and Bills are literally on the cusp because you have the Browns 7-6, Bengals 7-6, and you also have the Broncos who are 7-6. And then you got the Steelers 6-6-1, Raiders 6-7, and Dolphins 6-7. Mm-hmm. Those are roughly the only other teams that are in the hunt. Jets 3-10, Texans 2-11, Jaguars 2-11. They're all eliminated officially.
Yeah, well, the Colts are the biggest winners this week because they were in the hunt going into the week. Then they don't even play and they move up to a wild card spot, taking off the Bengals. But that division went there with the Bengals, Ravens, Browns. It's still wide open. You can obviously include the Steelers in that. I don't think they'll make it, but it's wide open. The Bengals didn't take advantage of the Ravens' loss to top it there, and they ultimately slipped out completely. So yeah, it's wide open there for the wild card spots, and I suppose if the Ravens are going to miss Lamar there, it's going to be a big opportunity for someone else to jump on top of that division.
Yeah, I mean, do you see the Browns, Bengals, Broncos, Steelers out of the Browns, Bengals, Broncos? Those are the 3 in the hunt, 7-6 teams. Do any of those make it?
I mean, I'd like to say Bengals, but there's too inconsistent.
A little biased there.
A little biased, but I think they're just too inconsistent. The Browns have a great defense. It's all about getting the run game going, I suppose, for them and what Baker can do. Broncos big game this week with the Bengals. That could, that's going to decide something there. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the Broncos. I like their run game. I like what they're doing there, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. But Teddy Bridgewater's not good enough for me. And their D turns up one week and doesn't turn up the next. So I don't know. For me, they're not all great options. Just because of the week that was in it, probably the Browns, you'd say maybe. But I'd still like to think the Bengals are in there with a good chance.
So Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson going to the Broncos next year?
I think Aaron Rodgers or I could go for the Broncos. I'm still thinking Russell might end up New York, maybe Pittsburgh, one of them.
All right. We'll have to see in the offseason, see what some spice we can have. Yeah. And then looking in the NFC, we got the Packers 10-3, Buccaneers 10-3, Cardinals 10-3. So the Cardinals lost last night, brings up the Packers and Bucks to the 1-2, and drops the Cardinals all the way to third. And then we have the Dallas Cowboys at 9-4. And then we have Rams 9-4, who's in the wild card along with the 49ers and the Washington football team, both 7-6 and 6-7. And then in the hunt, we have a lot of 6-7 teams in the hunt. Vikings, Eagles, Falcons, Saints. I mean, who would have thought Falcons are still in the hunt? And you have the Panthers and Seattle Seahawks, who are just right there too, 5-8. So out of those in the hunt teams, Vikings, Eagles, Falcons, Saints, who are 6-7, who makes it and who gets taken out? 49ers, Washington?
I don't know. I think I like the way it is at the moment because I don't like the teams that I don't think they're very good. The ones that are in the hunt going all the way down to us as the Seahawks. I don't think any of them are good enough. Again, I don't think the 49ers are okay. Washington were on a good run until recent. They're okay. But again, it's going to be more the division games that is going to, cause upsets there, I suppose, and push teams up. Like it's Philly and Washington this week. Philly need to win there. So I kind of like it how it is now. The Cards are strange because their 3 losses are at home. So I think they'll be fine once they keep playing away.
Yeah.
But Packers did their job against the Bears like they always do. Keeps them up there. Tom Brady led Bucks are always going to be strong. They're up there too. They're always going to be there. So I don't think anybody's moving them anytime soon. But yeah, I kind of like it the way the stands are now. I think that's how it'll finish out.
I think. I mean, I like to see Washington win it, but with them facing the division, it's going to be interesting to see if the Eagles somehow sneak in too.
Yeah, we're talking about the Washington division. The Cowboys, they haven't been firing all cylinders on offense. It's their D that was doing all the work for them. Dak needs to find his form of the early part of the season there to give them a bit more momentum and with a push them on in the playoffs, because otherwise I don't really see them going too far.
No, not at all. We'll have to see. I mean, week 14, it is officially fantasy football playoffs in almost, I'd say, every league now, by now anyways. If not, next week might be your first week if you're going to the week 18.
Yeah, for week 18.
So anyways, that's going to do it for our storylines of the week. 10% off on orders 35 plus at my website, sportsimehq.com. Use code FALL21. This is the final week to get your merch. So yeah, go for the merch. Anyways, we'll go on to our waiver wire quarterbacks. And let's see. Do I want to start with you or do I want to start with me? You know what? Let's go with the big name guy that just has a long name. Not really a big arm, though. Let's go with your guy.
Oh, your favorite quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. What can you say? You haven't liked them for much of the season, but they're on a roll. They're coming off the bye, and they play the Jets. So
they're seventh straight win, I see.
Yeah, you would imagine another win. Tua, last time he played them, 17 fantasy points. He's been playing really good of late. They do have, like we were talking at the start of the show, they do have some COVID issues with Gaskin and Ahmed in the protocol. So we'll see what happens there. It might mean Tua has to run a bit more, or he ends up throwing, because they're down to Malcolm Brown, who he could be. I think he's coming back off an injury. Duke Johnson is being called up off the practice squad. There are two names that don't really strike fear into opposition teams. So I think Tua might have to just do more than he needs to, which is always good for fantasy. So I think he should have another good fantasy day.
Yeah, and the last time he faced the Jets, he put up 17 points, which is not the greatest, but it's also not the worst for a quarterback, especially since quarterbacks have been all over the place this whole season. So having someone score 17 points against the Jets is not bad, and I expect him to definitely break that out a lot more.
Yep.
We also have Karina mentioning Cowboys defense. Obviously, we know that Cowboys defense did very well last week. Cowboys defense versus the New York Giants, or the Bucs defense versus New Orleans? Going Cowboys defense against New York.
Yep, Cowboys, because I doubt it will be Daniel Jones. It'll probably be Mike Glennon again, and I imagine another good day for the Cowboys D.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 15 points? I think they're gonna absolutely demolish Mike Glennon or Daniel Jones, whoever ends up actually starting.
Yeah, true. I'd favor it more against Mike Glennon because he's not very good.
Yeah. Start James Robinson, who basically put up a big fat donut, or Darrell Williams, who is backing up Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I would go with Darrell Williams because he's still seeing a lot of work and still getting a lot of the passing work as well. J-Rob is a bit all over the place. I don't trust anything in Jacksonville at the moment. Haven't trusted for a while. He's clearly like their best player at the moment, and they just don't want to use him. Don't even want to give him the catches out of the backfield. So I think Darrell Williams is a bit of a safer play there.
Yeah, I'm going Darrell Williams. I'd rather get the upside versus J-Rob and that terrible Jaguars team.
Oh man, I think we're going to be talking a lot about Trevor Lawrence in the offseason and what's to come next year. I think that's going to be one of the big things.
Well, I want to hear when Urban Meyer is going to get fired. He needs to get fired. I'm sorry, but he needs to get fired. He's done.
There's so much going on about, bust ups here and bust up there. And I don't know. It looks like they're going to probably see it to the end of the season and then maybe say, okay, you're gone. But I think he's just not cut out at this level. College was his level. Yeah.
We have a question from Armani now. How do you feel about Taysom Hill for Taylor Heineke trade in the Superflex Dynasty? So here's the thing. Taysom Hill is my waiver wire quarterback of the week. He's 57.4% owned. And the last 2 weeks, he put up 20.66 points and 26.3 points last week. He goes on to face Tampa Bay, Miami, and Carolina in the playoffs. If he stays as a starter for the rest of the season, he's easily a QB1 only because of his rushing upside. So I can definitely see him really giving Tampa Bay the run for their money with his rushing ability. And then Miami, I mean, Miami's a great team, or at least what they've looked like in the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. But I mean, Taysom Hill is just a different breed. How does someone throw 4 interceptions but still put up 20.66 points? So, I mean, he's basically rushed 11 times both games and has a combined of 174 rushing yards.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, on this deal, I'd rather get Taysom Hill over Taylor Heinicke, especially in Dynasty, because Taysom Hill, he could be the future, could not. But Taylor Heinicke, I don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback next year in Washington.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said there. In this trade, if you're actually like a contender or you're like, you're in the playoffs now, hoping to win it, Taysom Hill is definitely the side you want, the rushing upside. Taysom Hill is another one of these guys who's a pretty bad quarterback outside of fantasy football, like in real football. But for fantasy football, he's gold because he runs. Yeah. And like you said, he has these 4 interceptions, but still puts up over 20 points. So you don't care if he has 4 interceptions if he's still scoring you 20 points. So yeah, I like to call him Taysom Hill for the waiver wire pickup, and I'm all on the Taysom Hill side for this trade.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Taysom Hill, it's got to be Taysom Hill. I mean, I enjoyed Taylor Heinicke and I enjoyed seeing him this year, but depressing to say, but I don't think he's going to be a starter next year.
He's probably not. And, if you're in the playoffs now and you're doing this trade or whatever's going on, I don't think he's going to win you
Go to Denver.
Championship. Go to Denver. Go to Denver with Aaron Rodgers. Throw it all in there.
Yeah, throw it all in there. So yeah, that's one of my waiver wire pickups, Taysom Hill. Your last guy, I mean, I think he's a former Patriot.
He's a former Patriot, and I think it's the first time I'm probably talking about him this year, and Jimmy Garoppolo. But you know what? He did well last week. 269 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He did all right. 20 fantasy points, but he's a guy. Look, I'm not a big Jimmy G guy. I don't know if you were because you were a Pats fan, but I'm not a big Jimmy G guy. But he gets the Falcons this week, and even though last week the Falcons played against a mixture of Cam and PJ Walker, they still put up enough points for fantasy combined that it was like the QB12 on the week. So if Jimmy G is going to do that on his own, he is a good start this week, I think, against the Falcons. So if you're streaming, I would look for him.
If you're streaming a quarterback and you really say Lamar Jackson's out, maybe he's your guy, but it's just I'm nervous about starting him because he's not really that quarterback that you would expect him to be starting and being able to put 20 points, especially not this season. I mean, he only put 20 points up 2 times this year, and that was against Chicago, and that was last week against Cincinnati. But he's been putting up a solid 15 to 19 points a game. So you could say he's not a bad starter. I'd hope to see Atlanta, him scoring against Atlanta. I'd like to see him actually doing good. But again, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows? He's not like Mac Attack, though.
He's not like Mac Attack, no. And you're still happy with Mac Attack. Let's see what he does this week against your Colts.
Yeah, now I need
your Colts against the Colts.
Listen, if Lamar Jackson's out, I have to start Mac Attack.
That game is just going to be like run either side of the ball.
It's not.
Jonathan Taylor one end, and then you have Harris and Stevens on the other end. That's all that's going to be.
I don't know about that one. We'll have to see. All right, let's go with my last guy, and that's Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, QB 16. Wow, my thing's really, really slow. It's not even. Is it showing up? Because it's not showing up for me.
It's okay for me.
Ryan Tannehill, QB 16. He's 58.5% owned, and he's facing Pittsburgh this week. So Pittsburgh, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I mean, we saw Pittsburgh against the Vikings. They just gave up a bunch of points to the Vikings. Who would have thought the Vikings would have beat Pittsburgh? I don't think I would have. But they're not facing the best defenses, and I think Ryan Tannehill will be able to get A.J. Brown back, hopefully, or even Julio Jones, or even get someone there. I mean, Derrick Henry is soon to be coming back. They expect him to come back in about 3 to 4 weeks. So I want to see what's going to happen. whether or not he could be back for Miami game, which is the fantasy football championship, or even week 18, which could be some other people's fantasy football championships. So I'd like to see what happens, but quarterbacks have been really like slim lately. So I like to see what can happen with Ryan Tannehill. Plus, he was like a top 5 or top 10 QB last year.
Yeah, he was. And going into the league, I know I had him as a top 10 going into drafts. But yeah, I like Ryan Tannehill. I think it's going to be probably closer than we expect. I think the Titans will win it at the end. The only thing with Tannehill is that I think it's going to be a run-heavy game. We've seen what happened last week when Cook got their hands on that defense. He just ran through it all the way. So Deontay Foreman could. But the good thing about Ryan Tannehill, around the goal line, he has that sneaky rushing upside, and he can run in for touchdowns too. So he has got that upside. So yeah, I think this should be a good game between the Steelers and the Titans, and Ryan Tannehill should do well.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I don't know. I just hope Tannehill can actually get his QB value to go up because he really is a good quarterback.
He is, and I suppose it's the problem. He's not had his full wide receiver core for most of the season. You know, he only got Julio back last week, and then AJ Brown's been out. And I still think Jonnu Smith moving off that team has hurt them as well because he was great for that team. Hasn't done a whole lot with the Patriots, but was very good for the Titans. So, it's probably a bit of an adjustment there as well with all these kind of new young guys in there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll have to see, but that's going to do it for our quarterbacks. Taysom Hill, Ryan Tannehill are both my guys, and then Tua Tagovailoa and Jimmy Garoppolo are Keith's guys. And we also have a question from Karina. In a one quarterback league, is Big Ben worth keeping, especially with Pat Mahomes, who has been questionable this season? Since he's kind of been iffy.
Yeah, no, I'm done with Big Ben. Sorry, I don't think he's worth keeping at all.
No,
I don't have too much insight to go into, but he hasn't looked good. The arm's not there and he can't move. So yeah, I'm out on Big Ben.
Yeah, I'm out on Big Ben. Sorry,
Karina.
Yeah, not a Big Ben guy, especially not this season. I mean, maybe next season we'll have to see.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Well,
maybe
I think he'll be retired. I think he's gone after the season.
You think so?
Yeah, I think this is it. Whenever the Steelers finish, if they don't make the Super Bowl, which I'm guessing they won't, I think that'll be it for Big Ben.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he wants to go to another team. That's what he was saying. He was hinting it.
Yeah, but he's old and banged up, so I don't know. I don't know whether you take the chance on him.
Yeah, I mean, true. I don't know. I don't think people should invest on him,
no.
Whether in fantasy or regular teams.
He should be just sitting on waivers, and if you want a spot start on good, weeks, then maybe that's it. But I wouldn't be starting him every week.
No, not at all. But let's go on to our running backs. And this is a guy, I'm going to start with my guy. And this is a guy who is really on the cusp of 70% owned in ESPN leagues. He's 69.8% owned, so he's right there. And that's Tony Pollard. I mean, he's the RB20. He missed last week with a foot injury. But if he plays, which expect him to continue his production, because what he was doing before his injury the last 2 weeks, he was putting up 15 plus points. And he's facing the New York Giants this week. So that's something to keep in mind because the Giants are not good. Sorry, Giants fans, but your team is not good. Your team needs to rebuild, throw Daniel Jones into the free agency market or trade him away.
Haven't they been rebuilding for the last 5 or 6 years?
I don't know, a couple decades. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. It's not working anyways.
No, I mean, they thought they had Daniel Jones, the best quarterback, after they benched Eli Manning, but then it ended up happening that roles reversed and Daniel Jones actually wasn't even good. And then they started Eli. And now they're sticking with Daniel Jones, and now they're going to go get a quarterback next season because they need one. But plus they have 2 top 10 or top 15 picks.
Yeah.
So, I think Tony Pollard is a great pickup, especially since Zeke is still kind of banged up. So you kind of want to see Tony Pollard really see his production go up, especially if he starts.
Yeah, it's all about his health, I suppose, and if he's going to be back. But yeah, he's been brought up before. The way it's worked, Zeke obviously has this lingering knee issue or whatever it is, and he's not going to get a full workload from here on out. He hasn't really all season either. So if Pollard's back, yeah, you definitely put him in. He's definitely a good flex play. But just obviously keep an eye and see where he is on his fitness.
Yeah, he's an easy must-start flex play if he starts.
For
easy
sure.
Must-start. Who's your next guy? Is Where
I'll
is he? AFC, NFC? I don't know.
I'll double up on mine because I
Okay.
kind of mine kind of going hand in hand. Because I just went for insurance policies now that we're into the fantasy playoffs. So first one is Ronald Jones. So look, I get it. Ronald Jones hasn't been that good, and Leonard Fournette has just stolen the show. But it's more like if Fournette goes down, who do you pick up? Who do you have?
Hmm.
The run back landscape, there's not much out there. So I would just get Ronald Jones and just sit him on your bench and just hold him if you're the Fournette owner. Just leave him there. If something happens to Fournette, you have that guy that starts and will get all the touches. Gio Bernard went down last week, so it looks like he's out too. So I just like that one as an insurance policy. And then another one is Samaji Perine for the Bengals. Joe Mixon has obviously known to go down with injuries, and he was sick last week, didn't look great. Just another insurance policy. If you have Joe Mixon, just stick Pirina on your bench if you're in for your playoff games, because if he goes down, he's another one you can put in, and he's going to get all the work. So yeah, there were my two. I wasn't going, I don't like the running back landscape. I don't think there's a whole lot out there.
No.
I think Tony Pollard, like you brought up, is great, but I feel like he should be 70% owned. You know what I mean? He should be
He
over
should
there.
well above it, 70%. He should be
Yeah.
like 80, 85.
Yeah, he should be out there. So I just think you need these guys on your bench just in case. You may never use them, and that's what you hope for, because you hope you have the main guys and that do the job for you and get you that championship. But if not, I think these are a couple of guys you can just put on your bench and then plug in if the other guys go down.
Yeah, and you know what? Ronald Jones, he hasn't been that productive this year, but that's because Leonard Fournette stole the show. But Leonard Fournette's like a top 5 or top 7 running back right now. And if he does go down, Ronald Jones is that next man up. And Ronald Jones, I mean, his value will definitely for sure increase. But as for Samaje Perine, I mean, he started already this season and he scored 18 points. He scored 14 points. So he's a very good of a backup, especially since Joe Mixon does go down very often. But another backup I want to keep in mind too, between also on top of your two guys, is Wayne Gallman. He was just added to the Vikings team, and Dalvin Cook, we don't know his status, whether he's actually 100%, which I don't think he is. I think he's really pushing that injury. But Alexander Madison, like you said earlier in the show, I mean, he had COVID, so who's really that next man? And it's Wayne Gallman. If we've seen before with Wayne Gallman, with Saquon Barkley went down before, and Wayne Gallman was that RB1, RB2 guy. So I'd like to see what can happen with Wayne Gallman and whether or not he's going to be an interesting pickup this week.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested to see, is Cook going to be ruled out now because of a close contact with Madison? What's going to happen there in that backfield? And then they brought in Coleman, so that could be interesting. It could be a big week for guys with Cook owners and playoffs. They're kind of going to be sweating, hoping he wasn't a close contact or he doesn't get COVID. So Coleman's definitely another guy yet that Madison's gone down. Okay, Cook has the injury, like you just said, but also could get brought up for a close contact with COVID. So then who do they look to? It's going to have to be Coleman. So, yeah, I like this one.
And Gallman's a great starter, too. He's a good plug and play if needed. My last guy is someone that's just coming off the IR, and that's Michael Carter. Michael Carter is 63% owned, and he's the starting running back currently for the Jets. And if we've seen since Michael Carter has been out, Jets have done nothing with the run game. So having head coach Robert Saleh said that he expects him to return this week and to face Miami. But if you really look at Michael Carter's stats, he's averaged 89.3 points and 0.67 touchdowns in a 6-game stretch. That's per game. That's not bad for a rookie running back. And he should be immediately be fantasy relevant and be a fantasy starter once he's back and facing Miami this week.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Michael Carter. Had him in a lot of leagues, and then shame he went down. He's back now, I suppose, for playoff time, so he's a good plug and play. Against Miami this week, I suppose it's an okay game for him. I think if you need to play him, you can, but I would just on his first game back, I just want him as a flex play. I wouldn't want to start him as an RB2 just on the first game. But if you need to, there's worse guys out there that you could play. So yeah, I think it's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael Carter. I mean, I actually like Michael Carter. I've been trying to get him in a lot of leagues because I think he's got really good potential, even though he's on the Jets, which that's the one thing I don't like. But
Yeah, I think they should just turn him loose next season and just be the Michael Carter show. Really, lean on the run and just get.
Zach Wilson ain't good.
No, he's not that good. Just get him to throw when he needs to throw. That's what I would do because
I
I think their D isn't as bad as what it's made out to be. I think it's
no,
actually okay.
no, and I think the Jets really reached on Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson should have dropped.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's Justin Fields and Zach Wilson could have flipped.
Oh yeah, that's the way I think. I'm pretty sure that's the way I would have had it. Zach
Yeah.
Wilson going there.
Hey,
Well,
well,
sorry, Justin Fields, but everybody knew Zach Wilson was going. That was the thing.
that's the problem though. He shouldn't have gone there.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see this year what the draft order and how it's going to play out during our draft party.
Yep, for sure.
But that's going to conclude our running backs. Tony Pollard, Michael Carter are my 2 picks, and Keith's 2 picks is the backups who are good handcuffs to have is Ronald Jones and Samaje Perine. And let's go on to our waiver wires. Let's go with a 3-name guy. What kind of people are we looking at?
So I'm going with Donovan Peoples-Jones. So last week, it's pretty good. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 90 yards, 14 fantasy points. It's pretty good. And just after the news, I suppose, about the Browns, he wasn't on the list as far as I know. So if Jarvis Landry is out, Donovan Peoples-Jones all of a sudden is the number 1 guy there. So I think that's even more upside for him. And he's plays the Raiders next, who just came off a hammering against the Chiefs. So I think this guy, shoot for the upside, put him in your flex, and I think he might score some good points.
I actually like this a lot. I mean, he scored 14 points last week, like you were saying, and how well he did. And if they're out, Austin Hooper out, Jarvis Landry out, any other people that are out in the offense, that's really good for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And we could see him put up like an Arizona type of game that he played earlier this year, where he put up 26.1 points. He had 101 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Easily can see that again if he is the lead guy or the high volume guy.
Yeah, for sure. Like Baker's gonna have to throw to somebody, and he's gonna be his best target by the looks of things.
And DPJ is a very good deep threat.
He is, yeah. I liked him. A lot of people didn't. I don't know why, but I think he was. I always thought he was a good player.
I thought he was too. I mean, I'm not the person that really drafted him in a lot of leagues, but after seeing his potential, I mean, I like his potential. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Just his potential holds back on the Browns.
Yeah, for sure. They're a run-first team, so.
Yeah. My next guy is someone who we've mentioned a lot, and for some reason, he's still not over 70% owned. I mean, he hasn't even broken the 50% owned, and that's Russell Gage. He's 45.2% owned, averaging 10.9 points a game. He's had 6+ targets in the last 6 out of the 7 games that he's played, and he's double digits the last 3 games, 18.2, 22 points, 10.4 points. Goes on to face San Francisco this week, should be a shootout. And then he goes on to face Detroit the following week. I mean, he could easily bring you into the championship game if you really need that guy or that extra receiver. He's that guy that it's going to bring you there. And I really can see San Francisco and Detroit game, him still having the 6+ targets and him still breaking out and getting over 15 points. Then he goes on to face Buffalo, which is going to be an interesting game to see. But I think he can definitely do it. I think he can definitely get the 6+ targets that he's been looking at.
Yeah, I just think people don't trust him. Maybe, he put up that goose egg a few weeks back, and then he's gone on a good run, but I just don't think people trust him. I think that's the issue why he hasn't gone over 70%. The Falcons, they have to throw, really. Like, let's be honest, to keep them in games, it's all about them having to throw. And I get, Kyle Pitts is there and he's like taking over as the wide receiver 1, But Gage is still seeing the targets. He's still producing. I still think he's a great flex play. I think at this stage, what you want is a settled team that you don't have to touch. So, like, if you have him in your flex, you just leave him there and you just play, and he's gonna return 10+ points.
Exactly. I mean, Russell Gage started out really slow this season, and people were like, well, there he goes. He's the bust of the year. Everyone thought he was going to do good. But now look at him. He's starting to actually finally get into that offense, and he's starting to finally get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's your last guy? I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure out a pun for this one.
So I went for upside, and a guy it's done a lot recently, but throughout the fantasy season hasn't done anything before that, and it's Gabriel Davis. He scored 10 plus points and has back-to-back touchdowns, 8 targets, 5 receptions last game. He's playing the Panthers this week. The Panthers defense, started good and it's kind of faded. Everybody was like, oh, they're a good team, but they're based around defense and Christian McCaffrey and offense. And now they've got no Christian McCaffrey and the D doesn't look that good. I was expecting them to beat the Falcons and it didn't happen. I think Gabe Davis is one coming into playoffs now. I like talk before. Shoot for upside. I don't know what his floor is. It's probably 0, let's be honest, if he doesn't get anything. But upside-wise, if he keeps his trend and getting a touchdown, he's good for 10-plus points sitting in your flex.
So, question for you then. Are you starting Gabriel Davis or are you starting Cole Beasley?
Am I starting Gabe Davis or Cole Beasley? I'll go Gabe Davis and hope for the big game because Emmanuel Sanders looks like he's going to be out. So maybe I think he's going to turn into their deep threat. Cole Beasley is more reliable for the receptions and he'll get the team up the field. But I think for the big play and that kind of boom, I'll go Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis, he had the 8 targets, 5 receptions, 43 yards, plus the 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's doing really good. And like you said, if he keeps up the touchdowns, he's going to be like Hunter Henry and scoring double digits each and every week.
That's it. Like Gabe Davis, the talent is really good. We just don't see a lot of him. He just doesn't get out there much.
No, that's the problem.
It seems like, yeah, exactly. It seems like Emmanuel Sanders beat him at the start of the season to that job and they put him in. And now Sanders has been banged up and hasn't been doing great. Now Davis is time to shine. So I was hoping for a big year for Davis. I thought he might get his chance, but we'll have to hope for next year. Maybe that'll be your, Cole Kmet is your thing next year. Maybe my thing will be Gabe Davis.
Maybe we'll have to see. But yeah, I definitely like Gabe Davis and his upside this week for sure. But my last guy, and this is someone who we've mentioned prior this year, and this is someone who's 60.1% owned. That's Jacoby Myers. I mean, he's the wide receiver 34, and he's averaging 11.1 points a game. If you really look at his stats, he's had 4+ targets in every game except for the Bills game where it wasn't really his fault. It was more Mac Jones only passed 3 times, and it was just a windy game, so it was more of a run game type of play. But Jacoby Myers is a great player to have and play because he can average that 11 points a game like we've already seen. And expect Indy New England game, it looks like it's going to be a shootout. Let's be honest. You think it's more of a run game. I think it's going to be more of a shootout. I think Jonathan Taylor, yes, he's probably going to run a lot, but Damian Harris is probably, or Ramondre Stevenson, they're probably not going to have to be able to run as much because we've seen the Colts defense and they're not bad. So I'd like to see, I expect Jacoby Myers to really put in 13 points or even more.
Myers has been solid for that, most of the season. So yeah, I don't disagree with what you said. I still think it will be a run first game with Jacoby being the guy that would help him move up the field. I still think he's good for his 13 points, which is his usual floor, which is fine. It's just not going to be the guy that I don't think is going to hit the boom. He never does, but he's always got a solid floor. He just doesn't have that boom to him.
He's got consistency.
Exactly. He's got the consistency. So he's fine. Yeah. I am in my dynasty league that I think that I've made playoffs. Now he's going to play for me because he's going to give me that floor. And then I'm going to hope for the upside with the other guys that I have.
Yeah, and the only problem with him is Mac Jones doesn't find him in the end zone. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But once he finally finds the end zone, Jacoby Myers can easily be another Hunter Renfrow type of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that's going to do it, though, for our wide receivers. Russell Gage, Jacoby Myers are my 2 picks, and Keith's 2 picks is DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Gabriel Davis. So, going on to our tight ends. Obviously, I know Karina, you see in the comments, Karina doesn't like that pick, and that's because she's been trying to trade him to me, and I keep saying no to her.
Who does she not like? Myers?
Yeah, she has Myers, and then Myers just keeps giving her, terrible, options some weeks where, she'll start him, and then all of a sudden he doesn't do as great, and then she flips out.
I think you're gonna just have to expect her 12, 13 points to be happy. And if you're not happy with that, trading to someone, then
hey, you know what? She made it to playoffs. I beat her though.
There you go.
I want to keep in mind I did beat her, and I did get first seed, number 1 seed.
Oh, well, at least you made it in. That's what we want. People are getting in. It's all about you, Fernando.
Listen. We'll see in the championship week because I expect to be facing her in the championship week.
Oh, that'd be good.
I expect to beat her though.
She
She's
should
nothing.
come talk to me so I can help her beat you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyways, moving on. I think it's time to move on. Let's move on to our tight ends, and let's start with Let's start with one of your guys. Let's see. Was he a rookie 2 years ago or
Cole
3
Kmet.
years ago? Yeah,
Cole
maybe.
Kmet. Yeah, he's just rookie last year.
Ah,
Again, I didn't really like, let's be honest, the tight end landscape. And I'm trying to just look for consistency with targets, and Cole Kmet is definitely the guy that's consistency with targets. Playing the Vikings next, I think this could be a bit more of a shootout. I thought Justin Fields actually looked pretty good against the Packers. It was a crazy, every time they went up the field, someone scored. It was a crazy game. But I actually thought Justin Fields played well, so I think maybe Cole Kmet, if he keeps consistency with them targets, he'll get more receptions, and he'll do okay for tight ends, hopefully around the 10 points.
Yeah, I mean 11-7-5 is what we've seen in his targets the last 3 weeks. Obviously he hasn't really been scoring as much, but I mean it's the problem with Jimmy Graham, and that's the problem. That's the big problem, and that's what's holding him back. But say Jimmy Graham were to go, and maybe he gets COVID this week, Cole Kmet's an easily starter. Not saying that I want him to get COVID. Just want to point that out. Jimmy. Just wanted to say, I mean, he's a top 10 tight end if that is the case.
Yeah.
But I do like that pick. I mean, tight ends have been really struggling this year once again. But when you think there's this tight end that's a top 10, top 5, then all of a sudden he's unfantasy relevant. But yeah, he's still top 10. So it's kind of been all over the place for tight ends this season.
It is. It definitely has. It's always one of them, early on, Dawson, Knox, Schultz, they came in, they were, on the waivers out there, then they become
big guys
starters, every week outside the big 3 or 4. And then after that, it's kind of scraps on the tight end waiver wire.
Yeah, even TJ Hawkinson hasn't really done that much.
No, I would rather, at this moment in time, I think I'd rather play Dawson Knox over Hawkinson.
I've been saying Dawson Knox was the guy. He was my tight end this year.
Him and Dalton Schultz. Yeah.
Him and Dalton Schultz. And I was right about both of them. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, you were.
Man really thought, what's his name? Blake Jarwin.
Me was Blake Jarwin at the start. And then obviously I had to convert.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go with, I'll double up with my 2 tight ends. And that's Zach Ertz, 65.1% owned. Again, here's the problem. He's tight end 11. He's averaging 9.8 points, which still is not bad for a tight end because you're right around that 10-point mark. But here's the thing. 6+ targets the last 3 out of the 4 games. Facing Detroit this week, and that's the biggest thing, which should allow Ertz to break out this week. Detroit, Indianapolis, Dallas are the final 3, not including the Week 18 week. But if you look at Cole Kmet, for instance, Cole Kmet had 11 targets with 8 receptions the week that he faced Detroit. So I'm expecting a good breakout week for Zach Ertz, and I'm expecting another 15 to 20 points that Zach Ertz puts up this week. And then my next guy, I mean, that's Hunter Henry. And the reason why I decided to pick him this week is because of my thought process of it's going to be a shootout. I really think it's going to be a shootout, and I think Henry is going to find the end zone finally again. 45.7% owned, tight end 9, so he's a top 10. He's also averaging 0.1 less than Zach Ertz, 9.7 points. He hasn't found the end zone, though, in the last 3 games. But I expect him to find the end zone this week against a shootout Indianapolis team. And he may finish top 5 this week in fantasy.
Yeah, so Hunter Henry, I suppose, once the Patriots get around the red zone there, he is max number 1 guy that he looks for in the end zone. So, yeah, he's fine. Don't mind him at all. Especially if you're going with your theory that it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be on the ground. So that's fine. I'll let you have that one. Zach Ertz, been a Zach Ertz fan pretty much all season since he's gone over to the Cards. Got him in a lot of leagues early enough. He's been pretty consistent target-wise, and he's had some really good weeks. So, yeah, against Detroit, I expect that he'd do pretty well against these. He's another one that's gone back onto the list for me. Anyways, moving on into next year, that if you get him now, and I know he's not, I think the Cards will sign him. I know he's just there till the end of the season, but if they do, I think he's going to be one that you draft or you trade for, and you put him in and you just play him, and that's it. A bit like the Schultz and the Knox and the top guys. I'm not saying he's going to get the top guys, points like the Kittle or the Kelseys, but I
Yeah,
think he's a guy that's going to provide you consistency every week. So yeah, I like this call.
for sure. And then let's go with your last guy. I mean,
Uh-oh.
it's more of a two guys.
More for two guys, and after the news, so we obviously do our research, before today and up and up. So I had Austin Hooper, because they're going up against the Raiders and they just give up points after points to the tight end position. They're the third worst against it, but looks like he could be out. The other guy I had was David Njoku because he was already out. Now he could come back. Who knows? They both could be out. So they were the guys I had. But one guy I do want to bring up is Ricky Seals-Jones. He didn't do a whole lot last week, but he was only back after being injured. Playing Philadelphia this week. It's a great matchup for tight ends, so I think it's another one we can throw in there for anybody that's looking to stream on Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, kind of been iffy. Along with Ricky Seals, he's kind of been really good here and there, up and down season with Logan Thomas officially out now. So it'll be interesting to see what Ricky Seals can put up for tight ends, since tight ends are just so super thin this year.
Yep.
So that's going to do it for our tight ends. And Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry are my two guys. And Keith's two guys is Cole Kmet, Austin Hooper / David Njoku. And then you also got Ricky Seals adding in case Austin Hooper and David Njoku are both out with COVID.
Yep.
So that's going to do it for our tight ends. And that's going to do it for our waiver wires. So now we're going to do some starts and sits, whether you should start them or you should sit them. And Keith, we're going to start with you.
Okay, so at the quarterback position, so do you play Russell Wilson versus the Rams or Taysom Hill versus the Bucks? So it's the QB 22 against the QB 33, 33 being Taysom Hill. Both not great matchups, I would say. And the way I picked these two was there's actually a league where one guy has both of these that's in, so he could be tossing between two of these, and I think I don't think you love the matchup on either side, but you got to play one. So
I'm going Taysom Hill with his rushing upside, especially since he's facing the 13th ranked defense versus the 7th ranked defense for Russell Wilson and the Rams.
I agree. I would go with Taysom Hill. Aaron Donald has had Wilson's number the last few years as well. So yeah, I'd be on Taysom Hill side too there for the rushing upside.
Solid. This is another one that's kind of more like a dumpster stardom sit-em type of two. We've actually mentioned both of them this episode. Jimmy Garoppolo facing Atlanta, which is the 31st ranked defense, versus or Big Ben facing the Tennessee Titans, the 30th ranked defense.
I'm gonna stick with my Jimmy G.
Okay.
There, he's obviously the waiver wire push. I think the Niners will win. I think it might be closer than what people think. I think Atlanta will put up numbers against this, so it would give opportunity for Jimmy G to put up points.
Okay, fair enough. I could see that. I mean, I kind of was expecting you to say Jimmy G because Big Ben, we really don't think he's that fantasy relevant, and I am siding with you with Jimmy G as well.
Sounds good. We're on the same page so far. So I'll move on to the next one. So running back. So do you want Javonte Williams versus the Bengals?
Give me Javonte. I want Javonte already.
David Montgomery versus the Vikings. So running back 15 versus running back 25.
Oh, I think I've been really enjoying Javonte Williams, and don't get me wrong, David Montgomery has been one of my running back sweethearts this season and last season. But I'm going to have to go with my gut, and I'm going to have to go with not David Montgomery.
You're going with Javonte?
Yeah.
Even though you're going to have to mix Melvin Gordon in there?
Yep. I've been saying that Melvin Gordon does not need to be there, and it should be the Javonte Williams show. And we've seen that. And with Gordon already there last week and Javonte really still putting up numbers, it's good to see Javonte still putting up numbers with Melvin Gordon there. So I'm going with Javonte Williams.
Yeah, me too. I love the talent. Love Javonte. We're on the same page again.
Yeah, and this one's gonna be an interesting one. I think this one's might have to differ on both sides. Are you starting Saquon Barkley versus Dallas, the 4th ranked defense, or are you starting Josh Jacobs against Cleveland, the 10th ranked defense.
They don't like either, to be fair.
Yeah.
I would start Saquon Barkley.
I know.
But I don't like it, but I'll start him.
Really? I'm going to start Josh Jacobs, actually.
I was looking at this in one of the leagues because I've got Josh Jacobs, and I was saying, I just think he'll get eaten alive by that D-line. I just think he will. Saquon Barkley did all right last week, back with like 19 fantasy points. So, yeah, I think I'd go for the better talent and maybe the better matchup for running backs. I think I'll take Saquon.
That's fair enough. I actually have two more starts and sits for running backs, actually.
Go for it.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We were talking about this before the show. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is facing the Eagles, which are 23rd ranked defense, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is facing LA Chargers against the 28th ranked defense.
Chargers want to play a funnel D, and they're not great against the run, I don't think. So I'm going Clyde. Gibson against the Eagles. Eagles have been all right. They've been stout enough against running backs. So I would pick Clyde in this one.
See, I'm going to go with my gut with Antonio Gibson. I've been enjoying Antonio Gibson. Yeah, Antonio Gibson didn't really do that great last week. I think he bounces back this week.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to have to, if things go south, it'll just be the J.D. McKissick show, though. That's the only thing.
I mean, yeah, and we'll have to see what can happen there. My last one, I had one, but I forgot it. Okay. James Robinson. We already don't like it.
Karina's still here.
James Robinson against Houston, 27th ranked defense, or Devonta Freeman against the 11th ranked defense for Green Bay.
Do I have to pick?
You gotta have to. Say you're really like short on running backs. You're gonna have to pick.
Let's be fair. If the Jags actually used them properly, it's James Robinson. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
That's because they don't know how to run a team correctly.
Yeah. I would probably pick. I don't like it. I'd probably pick Freeman, but I don't like it just because I don't know what's going to happen with James Robinson.
See, I'd love to go with Freeman, but I have to go with Robinson only because they're facing Houston and they should beat Houston.
They should, but are actually going to use them properly and run them like, Seahawks did and Penny had a great day. Like Urban Meyer doesn't seem to be that clever to just say, hand the ball off to your best player. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I would like to see that for them to actually use it.
And if I think that happens, yeah, it's J-Rob all day long. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just out on all the Jags for now. So I'm going to go Freeman. And while we're talking about running backs, Damian Harris, hamstring injury, he's limited.
Oh, boy. That's for Ramondre Stevenson show, that means.
Yeah.
And that means Jacoby Myers is going to have to be stepping it up.
He'll get his 13 points. He'll be fine.
I told you, he is. So Karina actually wants to know our take between J-Rob and Houston. And obviously, we've been talking about it already, but I really think J-Rob is the only guy there that is going to be fantasy relevant this week.
He should be the only guy probably every week.
Well,
just
but
don't use him enough.
They just don't know how to use. They don't know how to play football. Clearly,
Urban Meyer doesn't know how to play NFL football. He needs to go back to play college football.
He needs to go back to college. Once he goes back to college, maybe he'll start winning games.
Yeah, probably.
Because he's really wasting the number one overall pick's talent.
Yep.
So, all right, let's go on to your wide receiver starts.
Okay, so shooting for upside here with these two guys. So Amon-Ra St. Brown versus the Cards, or one of the guys we talked about earlier, Gabriel Davis versus the Panthers. So you're looking at the 48th ranked wide receiver versus 60th ranked wide receiver. I can't say it.
That's oof. Amon-Ra
has been doing okay recently.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's Detroit.
Of course, it's Detroit, but that's why I put it in here, because you're only shooting for upside with these guys. You know their floor is probably zero. You know what I mean? You're not going to like this pick either way.
I might have to side with Amon-Ra St. Brown only because his upside has been really looking really good last 2 weeks. I mean, he's had 12 targets last 2 weeks, and he's managed to score. His lowest he's ever scored this year was 1.2, which was that was back in week 3. He's averaging 9.7 points. So I'm gonna have to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
We're going different on this one. I would go Gabriel Davis.
Of course, because he's your pick.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
You got to side with your pick, you know?
Yeah, got to stay consistent.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's go with. Are you going with Russell Gage against San Francisco, the 22 ranked defense, or are you going Darnell Mooney, who's ranked who's facing Minnesota, the ranked 32 defense?
I'm gonna go Darnell Mooney just because that
Really?
Vikings the secondary is really bad, really really bad. I think he'll have a big game. I can see him having a big game this week. After what I seen Justin Fields do, it looked like Justin Fields to me, that was his best game I'd seen. I was actually like, oh, okay, Chicago have a proper starter here if he can keep that up and improve. And we all know that he likes to target Darnell Mooney. So
I don't know. Watch out for Allen Robinson. He might break out this week.
He could, but
I
don't think it's going to happen. But I'm liking Darnell Mooney this week.
I'm actually siding with Russell Gage.
He's your guy, so exactly, you have to.
All right, let's go. Let's end it on a good tight end note. Who's your 2 tight ends? You're gonna have to tell me.
Oh, well, I know who you're gonna pick now after your waivers. Yeah, so it's Hunter Henry versus the Colts. Who is the tight end 14 versus Tyler Conklin versus the Bears, who is the tight end 16. So it's tight between the two of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Hunter Henry with the upside. With the upside. I did actually think of adding Tyler Conklin to the waivers this week, but I just couldn't do it because I like Hunter Henry with his upside, and I'd rather go with Henry on his upside.
I like both, to be honest. This week especially, I think Thielen's going to be out again. Obviously, Osborne gets an uptick there. I still think Tyler Conklin against the Bears D isn't that good. We'll do fine, and I think Hunter Henry's probably good for a touchdown in the Colts game. So yeah, I like both, to be honest. If I wouldn't be, I'd be fine starting either one of these guys and hoping for a decent game.
Yeah, if you're starting one of them, then you're hoping that they actually get you at least 5 points.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, to end it here, we're going to go with the tight end 3 versus the tight end 16. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I think they've been fairly inconsistent both this whole year. Excuse me.
Okay.
TJ Hawkinson versus the Arizona defense, which is ranked 3rd, or Noah Fant versus the Cincinnati defense, ranked 13.
Yeah, I can see why you did it. All right.
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. It depends. I suppose TJ Hawkinson mightn't even play. He's banged up, right?
But say he does play. Say he's officially 100%.
Play. I think the way I'd view it is if you had TJ Hawkinson, you're going to play TJ Hawkinson. So I would lean TJ Hawkinson.
All right, Gesicki or Hawkinson?
Oh, Gesicki, because I think Tua likes going to Gesicki, and I think
he's facing the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, anyways, that's going to do it here at Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining me today is my boy, Keith. You can follow him all over social media at SwamDonkey_90. Make sure to follow him and his fiance on Instagram at HuddleUp_NFL. Once again, there's 1 week left on our website. You can use code FALL21. Visit our website, www.sportstimehq.com, and use code FALL21 where you save 10% off on 35 plus orders. Once again, we'll be back next week at 3 p.m. where it will be Keith's last week of the season. Unfortunately,
what we got to do?
I know, but we'll be getting some guest stars coming in for the last couple weeks of the fantasy playoffs. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back next year. Next year. 3 weeks. We'll be back next year, but we'll be back next week again at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you all then. Enjoy the first week of playoffs.